Welcome to Botter's Muse Podcast. This podcast is all about staying ahead of the curve through the implementation of personalized one-on-one conversations with your audience. We focus on designing personas, the conversations they are having, and the technology that is enabling the dialogue. Here are your hosts, Hans and Jerome.
Hi, everyone. Great you're tuning in to the Botter's Muse podcast. My name is Hans Vandenberg.
My name is Jerome Vanderlin.
So first of all, we're today at episode 10. So that's definitely kind of a milestone. So first
Champagne.
of all, champagne. Yeah. Well, you're going to drink champagne in Barcelona on your weekend. So
Yes,
cool.
champagne.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Or cava or whatever. But first of all, guys, thanks a lot, everybody who's tuning in. Very, very much appreciated. We appreciate your listening to episode 10. Of course, in the podcast, we always try and pursue some Greek clear stuff about how you can start one-on-one conversations with some practical, tangible tips along the journey. So that's what we do this week. So great you're tuning in for episode 10. And today we really focus on, based on a customer gig that we're working on, we're focusing on more B2B kind of sales funnel, sales process, and focusing on conversion. So increase conversions with your bots, and first focus on some research, and then first step process. Yeah, please.
Sorry to interrupt, Hans, but I think also for the audience as well is because now a lot of the times it's coming from our side in terms of what we think they want to hear. I think it might be important as well is that some of our audience is indicating to us actually if there's any other topics they would like to hear as well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course we cover topics related to what we hear on projects that we work on. But if you guys are wanting us to cover a certain topic and a certain segment, of course, always focusing on personalized one-on-one conversations and how bots can play a role, then please go to botimplementation.com/ask and just ask us a question. Timbo will guide you through it, and we will cover that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, now this one, and you bring up a good point, is regarding a B2B project. We don't name the customer, but it was definitely an interesting case with the discovery of how we could increase conversion. So that's what it's about today. And we will also explain how a 4-step process can help you boost your conversion implementing a bot. So before we hit it off, we would like to, of course, indicate that if you're interested in our free mini course, go to botimplementation.com/PMC. And then we will go over the trends, and then we will cover our customer projects. So first of all, what I did a little bit when we did dive in more is how is chat next to a website conversion better? And this was a pretty interesting one. Some research of the American Marketing Association is that definitely chat, and in this case live chat, will 3 times more likely a buy will happen. So the conversion will definitely increase there, 3 times more likely increase. That is amazing, of course. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, that's more live chat. And what does it link to? It links to that when people have questions, they want to instantly be gratified, or how do you say that? But at least they want to have
Why
was that? But I was curious when I read it, but at least they want to have questions. Gratification, correct, thanks. And looking at also related to conversions and the chats, like when you look at audiences, and there was some other research that was pretty interesting, and we'll not dive into a little bit detail, but we definitely want to have it covered before we would move on, is that between the ages, depending on at least a medium, 45%, let's put it that way, is of the respondents of a research is definitely indicating that online chat and a chatbot is the preferred channel for communication when buying online. So they will not phone, they will not send an email, but most of the time they want to do a chat, a live chat, or a chat bot, right?
Yeah.
So that's from the ages 18 to 29, it's 44%, similar to 45 to 60 even. I was flabbergasted. But on top, it's definitely 49% of the 30 to 44-year-old people wants to have online chat or chatbot. So I can imagine if they want to have that it definitely increases conversion. And we're focusing here on more of a B2B website kind of engagement at the top of the funnel. And definitely, like when you look at consumers, some other research, 59% of consumers would expect chatbots to deliver 24/7 service, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So that they are instantly getting their questions answered. Now, one thing was, and there's many research here, but Kia, the car brand, which I had to put in for you, especially Jerome, is that they see, because you like Kia so much as the brand, but the thing is 3 times more conversion with the chatbot on their website. So that was pretty interesting there, that at least instantly 24/7 answering questions in that area would be ideal in increasing conversions. Yeah. So, and last but not least, related to marketing charts, I was looking like, okay, what's related to conversions and stats and chats and chatbots? What would we definitely? What would
24 hours
think? Yeah, that's on top. What would consumers really like about having a chatbot available? Again, this is more consumer kind of like, and but what's similar to B2B, of course, but definitely on top is 64% they like the 24-hour service, right? I was on a website and it was chat, and there was only live chat 2 days ago or something, and then the live chat was offline because the person was not there. So yeah, the 24-hour service, I can imagine. Yeah, instant response.
Honestly, we've seen so many sites as well where we see the live chat being offline after a certain hour as well. It's which basically defeats the purpose of having a live chat.
I think a live chat being available as a first step when there is none is a great first step, right? Exactly. But indeed, it's very expensive to have always a representative there. Yeah. And many times people are sitting on their couch. We say that often. And that's similar to the client that we're talking to now. Sometimes the B2B customers are still looking at their website and want to get engaged. So, so clear 24-hour service, instant response. Often they definitely... The chatbots, really, that's what some research as well. Keep it simple. That's what we always so say, because they are very much quickly dissatisfied when the chatbot cannot answer the questions. So be honest in what you can do. Be honest that you will connect with them very quickly. We talked about that in other episodes as well. When you cannot answer the question, please indicate when you're coming back. And when you promise to come back in a day, please do so, because otherwise the experience is very bad from the brand experience. So having said that, that's an intro. If you're interested in looking at this stuff and looking at the slides, please visit botimplementation.com/10, because that's the episode. Then you can have a look here as well.
One of the last ones is nice as well, about the friendliness, which basically shows you that the human is not doing that.
Right. Yeah. The friendliness and the approachability is 80% of a benefit. Well, it indicates that there are great bots out there that for sure, hopefully don't pretend they're human, because that's a little bit against our bot implementation formula. But
No, but I think a lot of companies still have this hesitation of, no, if people are talking to a bot, then it's too impersonal and an experience for our customers. So we need to have the human touch in it. Whereas if you look at these numbers, effectively friendliness and approachability is very much appreciated in the bot.
Right. Yep.
So effectively it brings forward actually the complete reverse, is that a bot might even be a better experience than a human.
I always say it's definitely consistent in how they would do stuff, and people are sometimes difficult to train to be consistent with the brand.
Absolutely.
So that's but that's for another episode perhaps. But you can have definitely that catch-22 of, would a bot be more on brand, how they would say, than a human being at the help desk and a live chat person.
We could do a live chat experience versus a bot.
Right. Yeah. That would be cool. The
It's
challenge.
a nice episode.
Right,
The challenge. Which one is
the
better?
challenge. Yeah, right. Live chat against the chatbot answering questions. Yeah, well, let's have a look. We're, of course, now looking at our bot implementation formula. We always go through the discovery first, analyzing how the current flow is. And we're at that moment working with the client on that. And that's where this came from. And we already plotted a little bit on where it's going. We will share that with you as well without naming any names. But the thing is, we're definitely in discovery. That's how we do it on the approach of the bot implementation formula. In the mini course, it's explained, by the way. And from that perspective, that's where we're at now. So hopefully we're going further down the line with some other clients and make this happen. And that would be a great one. Yeah, for sure. So moving into the nitty-gritty details on the podcast, we always share the experiences and the conversations that you might have or could have with your audience, focusing on increasing conversion in a B2B environment. So you're the customer journey expert, Jerome. So we definitely have a persona on the B2B prospect, right? That's what we...
So just as for a little bit of background, so the customer in this case was a B2B web shop with a huge amount of personalization. What they were looking for is a very standard question, basically, is how can I increase my overall conversion? So what we did, and as part of our overall approach as well, we look always at the why. We start at the basics, start at the beginning and understand really what is the current customer journey and what are the pain points that we see there. Yeah. Now, on the search phase, when we looked at it already, is customer simply arrives on the business page, nothing major different here than any other, and then starts looking for products basically in the overall web shop, which is an accumulation of number of products which are visible there, with no real major comparison capability and so on as well. Then if you want to go into the compare phase, here it's really about clicking on each of the individual items and getting a clear understanding of terms of what are the characteristics of the product, what are the price points of the product, etc., etc., etc. So it's really rather laborious approach in terms of understanding what we need to do in order to basically understand the characteristics of the product.
Right. Yeah. One thing I would like to add is the individual items, the price, and especially the image is the most important thing in this case. So it's not it's not a B2B website where the specifications of the individual products should be compared. So let's be honest about that. But still, it's there. You're not being able to compare stuff, which would be a nice thing, but that's not up our alley. But I agree. The compare is just clicking through and comparing prices and writing them down in your notepad, right?
Exactly. Now, then in the decide phase, it's really about requesting a quote by filling in. There's a little bit of a bug here in the slide. Sorry for that one. Can you do one more click, Hans?
Sure.
Sorry, this is for the guys looking at the video. Basically, we had a little bit of a mix-up in terms of overall click. So here it's really about finding suitable products, and then you need to click on I want large quantities of that specific product and basically go to a quote request form. So you fill out an online request form in order to understand this is the volume we're looking for, timeline prices, etc., 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 which is then automatically communicated towards the company, and the company creates a quote on that basis. So effectively, they provide a quote via email to the consumer.
Right. Yep. To the B2B customer. Yep.
Then the customer can place an order via email and uploads any information they might have that needs to further support the personalization aspect, basically, of that order, i.e. names, artwork, etc. Then the article is produced and shipped. And then ultimately it is arriving at the company itself and distributed, and where the products are being distributed towards the consumer. So it's a very basic approach with very little elements in terms of consumer convenience in mind. And that's basically one of the key pain points as well, is how can you optimize the consumer convenience in this aspect and make it more flow through in terms of overall approach and engagement.
Right, and for everyone, we looked at high level this journey. You can go in much detail. This is of course the high level version of it. However, we really focused then, and the next topic, what we will focus on is more going into the beginning of the journey. So the top of the funnel, as they call it, like more in the search phase, where
Exactly.
where you will be able to engage. So that's where we also have a 4-step approach to boost your conversion, right? So
Exactly.
so the first step, yeah, please.
You want to go through it?
No, go ahead.
Okay, yep. So the first step we really brought about, which is the engage phase. So this is one of the critical phases, and I'll go in a little bit more detail later on as well. The second phase is really about the discover phase. Then after the discover phase, we go towards the propose phase. And the last phase is really the follow-up. Yeah. So I will go and take you a little bit through in more detail through the individual phases in order to have a better understanding of what we mean with each of those phases that we have there. So if we go to the engage phase, this is really the phase in which we welcome the customer. We introduce your bot. And remember, I mean, we keep hammering on this every time as well. Your bot is, make sure that you introduce your bot so that the customer is very clear in terms of who they're communicating with. Not that they have to find out later that it's actually a bot they're communicating with because you're pretending it's human. Yeah, there's a very clear distinction still. The bot here is the main engagement, and don't be ashamed that you have a bot engage with your consumer. Then the bot will explain the role it will play in the consumer journey and what it can help with basically during the journey that the customer is going on.
Yeah, so on this perspective, the engagement for you guys that are listening, the engagement is clearly on the website. So on the website, there's a page with some information. And at some point, you want to, as we call it in the first step, engage with the consumer or the customer or the prospect, if you will, and you want to offer them help. So what you see often, of course, on the website is that there is a bubble on the lower right-hand corner that is popping up, that is already there. That might even pop up, which you see a lot with a bot as well. And that live chat is the same, right? So don't get me wrong, but it pops up and say, hey, can I perhaps help you within your search, right? Because the customer is there, it just arrives. So you can set the delays of 15 seconds, 10 minutes or whatever after scrolling through a whole page, just for people to understand what is all possible for people to start with. But you can really pick your right moment to start the conversation. That's really what we believe is the proper way to do this. Where do you engage? Where would you start the conversation? How do you want to start it without being annoying? That's similar going into a bar that you want to approach somebody. When do you start working at them? And what's your opening line, right? Just compare it with that. And then you're good to go, because then you're really approaching it from a person-to-person perspective. So at the right time,
maybe
website. Yeah.
Maybe we should rename it into from engage to chat up line.
Sorry, to?
Chat up line.
Yeah. That would be a good one. Yeah. We'll keep that in mind. Yeah. That's it. Well, if we keep that in mind, I honestly do that a lot, because people start
chatting up people.
Yeah. No, that's not the case. But I'm thinking of, how would I approach this person in real life? So what if this person would come in the store and they browse around through the store? What would I say? And you walk up to them and you would honestly say, hey, how are you? Can I perhaps help you with something, right? And sometimes that's a little bit annoying, and you run away and saying, I'm fine. Well, then you bugger off and you don't bother them again. And then you can only say like, hey, let me know. I'm here to help, and just give me a buzz, right? So that I think is critical to approach in engage,
but
right? And in this case,
let's face it, and it's the same situation on the web as well. Is in some cases people just don't want to engage.
Sure, yeah, and leave them at that, and send a message,
and don't push.
Leave them alone. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure. All right, so that's the engage, right?
Then the second phase, discover. So in the discover phase, it's really about starting conversation and understanding what the consumer or customer wants and what they need. So here it's really about one key thing is ask questions. And it's a two-way street. I think this is one key thing that we need to be very clear on. It is a conversation. It's a one-on-one conversation you're having with your client. So the bot can ask questions and you're expecting a certain return from that customer as well in order to engage and further understand basically what their needs are. It is really about getting an understanding of their needs and then ultimately having a recap of those needs as well is, okay, our understanding is this, this, this. So it's really to drive that customer towards a certain understanding and let him really come clear in terms of this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, right. And what I would like to add is that in the formula, we also focus on, okay, who are you going to talk to? At what moment in the process do you engage? And then with which conversation do you engage, right? So that's really also the things that you need. You have this persona of this B2B customer. You want to start, have a conversation with them. The purpose of this step in the discover, which we always do with the customer as well on the discovery, but here you would discover like, okay, what you mentioned, what do you need? And just pretend what would be the possible outcome, right? If that person indicates, yeah, I want your help, then great. Then ask them questions, be thoughtful, be interested, and don't get me wrong. Sometimes people think I shouldn't ask too many questions, but of course, asking questions is about engagement. If they will then flow away and go off, then they potentially are not the right customer for you. But I think asking questions will give you the opportunity to propose something really great and something personal, because that's of course the goal, I think, to help them out.
Exactly.
Yeah, the goal is indeed to do that. What I really liked on your proposal, Jerome, with this client is also when you ask questions, it's really, really powerful to recap the needs when you close down the discovery step. You really asked a lot of questions on what they would like, for how many people, in which price range, and that was really cool. And then you really listed it up and saying, hey, so you need this, is this correct? Then you really engage with the person and indicating like, did I listen correctly? What you normally in a meeting does it well, and then list it up. So the step here, the end deliverable of this step, of the second step, which is to discover, it will be ideal to list up like what this person really needs, to then confirm. They say, yes, this is what I want. That's, I think, very powerful. So quick tip here, guys, if you're using a bot and you're asking questions on what they would like, at the end, very much in a lot of chatbot platforms, you store, of course, the answers that they're given, and you make a very nice, short and sweet, not too long, right? Because that's not for a bot. And Jerome is an expert in conversation design for bots, but I'm less. But list it up briefly with only max 3, even max 4 lines on your mobile, and otherwise split it up, use images or whatever you want, but make it engaging and recap this, because I found that the customer really liked that. That was really awesome. Yeah. Cool.
It's really about being listened to. And that's
right. Well, at least, with a bot is very easy, but in conversations, I agree it's sometimes difficult to hook up with what they've told and do a recap, but it's very powerful. In a bot, you can easily do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so we go from engage to discover, and then what?
Propose.
All right, makes sense.
So we're not talking about a marriage proposal, although honestly, it's not that much different as well. That you're staying a little bit in your corner, Hans.
Right.
So here it's really about the offer and the present. So based on the consumer needs that the bot has identified, suggest solution options. So come back not with the one offer, but come back with the 3 offers. I mean, with the digital agencies, let's face it, all of you are familiar with the 3 options that you're choosing towards the customer. There's always one that suits better towards that, which you can steer the customer as well, and which you can steer the client. And the same method basically approaches here is you give the customer options, still that they are effectively in charge of the decision process, and not that you are making a decision on their behalf. Then they present the benefits of those options and let the customer choose. It's really about letting him choose and basically then confirm his choice. And this is a very critical thing as well, is when they make a choice, congratulate them on the choice, or in whichever form you want. It is, yes, this is a fabulous choice because it's the most best-selling solution that we have, or it's fabulous because it meets your needs 1, 2, 3. etc., etc., etc. You can do multiple things basically with bots in this area.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, I agree. It reflects also the part where you have, for example, if you sell B2B software, there are always different plans, right? And they always pop up the middle plan, and they say this is the most favorite. Well, what if you would just have nothing on the page, engage with the bot, ask questions like, with how many people are you have, and do you do this, do you do that, and then link it to basically your functionality, and then the plan they should choose, and then indicate, okay, we have two plans, which one do you pick? And then indeed acknowledge, like, great that you're going for the pro plan or something, and here you go, click here, fill out your credit cards, and off you go. Right. So
Exactly.
I agree that it's really, really highly engaging, that of course you present based on what they agreed upon that they want. And they also clicked viciously on, yes, this is what I want, that you present them options of physical products or solutions or whatever, but at least present a couple of them, and then let them confirm and that's really what we call it's a one-on-one conversation, but it's personalized. You can only have a personalized one-on-one conversation when you really ask a lot of questions and confirm that you didn't misinterpret them and that you exactly know what's going on. That's definitely a highly converting aspect of in this process of searching and getting them in the order. Yeah. So last but not least, we talked about engage, we talked about discover, so want to know what the customer really wants. We then are proposing in a personalized way what they potentially could take from you and buy from you, and then we have the last step.
And the last step is really the follow-up. And with the follow-up here, we're talking about what are the next steps. So really further in the journey, how do you engage to confirm the order? And I think this is a critical point as well. Think of can you please provide your email, please provide your telephone number, and we get that personal contact to you in order to engage further and close that deal. It is really about giving that choice to the customer as well, is when do they want to be engaged, when do they want to be communicated, and in particular in a B2B type of client, this is for me always a very critical element. If you're engaged, you want to determine the time because you have a very busy schedule as well during the day. Then ultimately, and that's really after the closure of the order, it's really about rating our service. What can we do better? How can we improve? And really show that you're taking value of the consumer feedback in order to evolve yourself and evolve your services as well. And that's ultimately then landing into your closing, which is you sign off and see you next time.
Yeah, what I find really powerful is that you indeed indicate how they want to get contacted, via email, via phone, and if it's via phone, when, right? That's,
exactly.
Pick a date and time. There are a lot of integrations between chatbot platforms, but more, I'm the techie guy here, but between chatbot platforms and calendar kind of scheduling tools, which works great on indicating the available time. They can click, and off they go and say it's going to be Tuesday at 2 p.m., right? That's
exactly.
That's very convenient. And heck, you need to make sure that offer is ready, that you then discuss it. But that's the promise that you, of course, give them, that they can only plan the next day or something. But yeah, that is a good one to proceed with. So that's the 4-step process. Now, looking at how a total customer journey then could look like when you use a bot. You're the expert here, but let's dive into this.
Yeah, so basically, and catch here the elevations as well. I think the uplift is really here is you still arrive at the standard business page, but basically, and as Hans already mentioned, is you have a pop-up or you have a button or whichever you decide for, but the bot is coming up and is offering basically its assistance. It's ready there to help with the search and show that basically service element to it. Then the bot helps with the search. It inspires a prospect basically on what kind of theme, what kind of direction are you looking for, and so on as well. And ask questions. Again, we're coming back to here, ask questions about quantity, price, range, audience, etc., etc., etc. Just really get down to the nitty-gritty, understand what your customer wants. Then in the compare phase, and this is already what we mentioned as well, is basically what we have here is you take the information that the bot collected, and from there, basically, if you can click one more, Hans, we take the information that was collected and from there basically provide clear alternatives based on theme, price, quantity. So here we come back to the overall point where we propose something, but we give them clear alternatives in terms of what they would like to have. Yeah. Then prospect at the end, when the selection is made, is really the follow-up is how do you would like to receive the offer, when can we contact you, etc., or what is the time on the telephone call in order to get you through that discussion in terms of the final price and signing off on the order. And then ultimately with the prospect as well, having selected that order and making the purchase. And then ultimately, you have the customer receives the email confirmation basically of the order, signs the order, and uploads any of the additional information. And basically then from there, when the final order is signed, you have the confirmation of the order via bot. The products are being produced, and that's really in the use phase. And from there, the bot informs the consumer, and this is very important, when the item is being shipped. Remember, this is always a critical point as well. They want to know where the status of their order is, what is happening, when they can receive it, and so on as well, because you don't know what relates to it and what is dependent on it. Company receives and distributes the products, and basically the bot asks if they like it and send a picture. Yeah, or send a picture or send a feedback or anything like that. And then ultimately it's really about the bot inviting the customer to share a code with the friends, share with friends in other companies, and expand basically and expand the message as well abroad in terms of the service you have is absolutely fantastic. Try it. You need to try it.
Yeah, it's very easy to send a code to them for 10% off, and that they're allowed to share it as well with others. I even had one client which I read about, which was not implemented by us, but that shared a code, and they could earn even points when other people, of course, they would get a kickback when other consumers use their code. So sort of an affiliate, which definitely consumer to consumer communication is very powerful, and you can do that in a bot, right? Yeah, especially when you do it in Messenger. We can do it in WhatsApp. You can just forward the message and then make it happen that they send it to other people. So yeah, so that was from the as-is situation of the process to perhaps a desire to be and great new engagement, how a bot can play a role. Definitely there's only one goal, is to increase conversion and make the customer journey as smooth and customer friendly as possible. So yeah, that's how we approach the projects, to first look at the discovery on what doesn't go wrong or what doesn't go right now, or what can be improved, for whom, where in the journey. That's more of the why in the bot implementation formula, and then we go and implement the conversations like these with the proper platform on the proper channels, right? Because
exactly.
pick a technology and pick a bot platform that suits your needs and that definitely helps you out, right? And start small, do it in small steps, and definitely pick a platform that will help you, and start with linear stuff. So
exactly. And that's
yes.
a little bit transversal as well if you want to expand your overall services as well, because there's nothing worse than shifting between platforms back and forth.
Yeah. When you pick a platform, pick the right one. Yeah. And exactly. Of course, you can ask us a list of platforms. We have listed up many platforms, review them as well. So if you have that question, go to botimplementation.com/ask. If you want to ask us a question that we need to cover in a certain segment, and that you would like our feedback on a certain case in a customer journey and a certain case in a certain segment, we would love to look at it and send you personal feedback and potentially also cover it in the podcast. If you have a bot yourself and a chatbot and you would like us to review it, that's possible as well. So that's a little bit separate, and Timbo will guide you through it as well. Then go to botimplementation.com/submit. You can submit your chatbot there. All the links are in the show notes. Now,
I think there as well, just on this one, I think it's important for people to know as well, if you don't want us, so there's two ways of doing it. One, you can simply submit and we will review no matter what. And if you want us to raise it in the podcast as well, happy to do so. But there's no need for that. So it's really up to you in terms of voluntary choice for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Trust. Good. And then your hero, as you're an Apple fan. Yeah.
I'm an Apple fan, and I'm not sure whether it's a hero.
Of the day.
But honestly, I like the quote very much, and also in light of what we did with the client as well, is you've got to start with the customer experience and work your way back towards the technology, not the other way around. And that's effectively the entire method and approach of what we're trying to do as well, is really look at the customer experience and then work back towards the technology, with the technology being the supporting factor and not the most principal factor, basically.
Right, as one component, yeah. Exactly. This quote, guys, is from Steve Jobs for people who are listening and not looking at the video cast. So you've got to start with the customer experience and work back towards the technology, not the other way around. So don't take the technology as a basis. A lot of people believe that, I'm going to buy a platform, switch it on, start with a free trial, and off you go. That's definitely not our belief. We definitely believe that that a good approach, a solid approach with all the components in place, that you have to work your way through it in order to make a successful implementation of one-on-one conversations, because that should be the goal. It should not be the goal that you implement a chatbot, right? There should be some kind of business rationale and purpose to it. And definitely don't take the technology as the first step. So thanks all for, of course, listening just before the weekend. Friday is always the launch of our podcast. So thanks again for listening. Jerome, have a lot of fun over the weekend in Barcelona. And just in case you want us to review our podcast, that would be much appreciated. botimplementation.com/review. That's on Apple iTunes. So much appreciate your feedback, and thanks for listening, and have a good weekend, and talk to you or hear you next week. Thanks a lot.
See you later. Bye.